Good day, everybody. We're gonna work with the worms again today. Maybe take some out. I haven't looked at anything yet. Let's have a look. Might be doing a harvest. Okay, for one thing, let's turn this around because I work better when I've got them all. This finish end, this feeding end. So this is the feeding end. So what do we got happening here? We got some worms on top. Oh man, this stuff smells mushroomy. Oh, look at the fungus. Look at the fungus. Lots of fungus. Lots of worms on top. Remember, I don't know if you want to go back and look at the last time I put some paper bags up here. They're toast. That's all that's left of them. So let's take this and go this way. Not that there's much to it, but we'll put them down here. These are the European night crawlers. I always start with my European night crawlers. I want to say I don't think we're gonna harvest any, but you never know. It's pretty wet. This is the area we'd be harvesting, and there's still a fair few worms in there, so we're not going to be harvesting, I don't believe, this time. Look, there's a corn cob. It just crunches. Nothing to it anymore. They've had their go at it. Okay. So we'll set this stuff here for now. We'll go in and lots of fungus. This stuff smells like a mushroom farm, which they tell me that we want to build fungi dominant castings. So that's on the way to doing that. There's a good sized worm. I mean, these guys are... Last summer, I kind of neglected my worms. And I thought, well, they'll be okay. And they, on the bigger part of things, were okay. This bin took a real kicking because it didn't have the mass to go into that neglected time. So they're just nicely coming back to a real good population. These are nice worms, nice size worms. They're good size worms. The food that I put in their bedding last time, it's gone. Well, there's a lot of cocoons. There's a lot of cocoons. See if I can get you a cocoon to look at. There is a cocoon. And it's nice and bright yellow. So that means that it's new. When they're brown, it usually means that they've been hatched. So eggs means they're doing good. Egg means they're multiplying. Egg means they're a healthy colony. We're going to feed. We're going to put a little Kleenex in. And I mentioned one time before, I think it was in the last video, that wherever I seem to put Kleenex into the bedding, it really boosts the fungal traits of the compost. So we're going to use it up. I don't keep them all, but if I have some recent ones, I put them in. Okay, so onion shells, peels, and a banana. And these guys are really going after the paper. Like, what they did to those bags, they've just pretty much destroyed. So, good on them. A lot of moisture in there. That's a very wet bin. But seeing as we're not harvesting anything, that don't matter. And I didn't mix up a bunch of paper and coffee this last time. I only got about a half of a container in there, and I guess if that's not enough, we'll just use dry paper. So this time I'm going to just leave this end a little more open. I believe last time I had it fairly covered. And that'll give us a chance next time to pull some more castings out of here. One European night crawler bin done. So like, subscribe, share, comment. If you want to get notified when we do something, by all means, hit the notification button. So we've got like a yellowy, I don't know what it is. Doesn't seem to hurt them, but it's yellow. But there is some white fungus in here underneath the paper. So maybe it's just part of what the paper had that they're going through, and the fungus, and it looks like fungus, but it's kind of slimy. But it's a part of the bin, right? So we're not going to worry about it. Yeah, we're not gonna harvest anything out of here today. So move stuff. Set this over there. A lot of worms in here. This is a healthy bin. Like, teeming with worms. Very wet. Lots of moisture in these bins. About a month and a half ago, I guess, I decided that my bins were getting too dry, so I gave them a real good watering. And of course, you know, I succeeded. I moistened them up. There's some worms, guys. It's a good little corner of worms. You get back in there. You get. It's not their fault. I kind of scattered them all over. So we went, and I went to a local producers club meeting, and it wasn't just on worms, it was on regenerative agriculture at a neighboring town, you know, down the road, not real close, but about 50, 60 miles away. And there was a good group of guys there, and a couple guys got worms over there, and we were talking about, like, they want to regenerate. They want to do like I do and regenerate their soils and use worm teas and stuff, compost teas, as their amendments, part of their amendments. And it was an awesome evening. We had really good conversations about a lot of things. It wasn't just about worms. Talked about different styles of worm bins, and one of the pros and cons of some of them, and some of the research that I've done on them. And really good group. They were very open to all discussions. We talked about pastures, we talked about grazing, we talked about intercropping with the different crops. It was a really productive evening, and great to be amongst a group of like-minded guys and girls. There wasn't any girls there, but we're an open group. If girls want to come and share and have those types of conversations, it's well, I get no, sorry, don't get that right. We had a girl there. Don't let me forget about Jan. She was there. So ixnay on there were no girls there. And it was an awesome conversation. We talked about greenhouses. We talked about, oh man, we talked about everything. One fellow over there, they got a drone, and they're doing seeding and broadcasting with their drone, and I think this one's got yellow fungus in it too. I think it's just the new paper, because the old stuff and the newspaper doesn't have that. So, yep, this is too wet to harvest. I'm going to fluff that up, move it. Let's give this back, fluff this up, move it. And you know what? Dry paper might not be a bad thing in here today. This stuff's muddy. Fluff what you can. There's a lot of worms in this bucket. Very healthy. These are red wigglers now. Very healthy population of worms, and they're big and they're fat. And red wigglers are not a big worm, right? They're a smaller composting worm, but that's a good size red wiggler, and they're healthy and very chubby. So I'm going to just move this stuff down to this end for now, give myself a little room. And we're going to flip. Worms love wet and gooey. You're not doing them a disservice by having wet and gooey, but it does make it less fun to work with. And last time we added quite a bit of frozen kitchen scraps in here, and that can add moisture. I'm having a hard time believing that it added that much moisture, but maybe it did. That's enough. They've got a lot of paper in there. And we have some dry paper, and we're going to use some in here. We're going to cover our food up with that, and it's going to suck up a lot of moisture. So then we're going to put this stuff back over here. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover. And a lot of the last time's paper came up with the bag, and that's fine. Don't worry about it, it's going back in. So this group, yeah, it's a really good place to sit and talk about different ideas and different ways of doing things, and sometimes the same ways of doing things. It just was a great evening, and I can't say how much I really enjoyed it. It was awesome. Alright, so this is a red wiggler, but none of those brown bags. And the fungus is white. So I think it had that yellow stuff has something to do with the stuff in the bags. That's okay. The worms will handle it. Well, there we could harvest some. There's a lot of worms in it. Let's do it. Let's take a little bit. Set this over here. Get me a bucket. My screen. I like to run that way. Okay. And if you don't overload the screen so much, it does a little better job. So the weather here has warmed to the pluses most days. Today we're at, like, last time I looked, I think about 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. It's supposed to really warm up today. This afternoon I'm going out to start some of my fencing that I got to start going around my fencing so that that's done, so I don't have to worry about it later on in spring when we kind of get busy doing other things. And it's a nice day, so I'm going to pack a sandwich, ride some fences with the quad, and kind of just enjoy the warm weather and get some of that done while it's nice. There were really only worms at the top where it was a little more moist. And now, there's a plastic spoon. I don't think that they'll digest that. Funny things end up in a worm bin, but it's okay. It all, when a person's screening it, it all gets screened out. Alrighty. It's a good little bag out of a bin. But, so we're just going to leave that set there for now. We're still recording. I gotta watch my camera. I think I cleared enough memory out to be able to do this stuff, but I gotta really pay attention to that because it's pretty annoying to get halfway through and then you hear a bloop bloop and it's like, yeah, darn, it stopped recording. Good population of worms in this bin. And they are nice size, red wigglers. It always amazes me how good the red wigglers do. I mean, they are awesome little composting worms. The Europeans do real well too. But I like the red wigglers. They're pretty cool. They do an awesome job. Seem to populate quickly. So I'm going to put this stuff down. Most of it anyway. And we're feeding them. We're feeding them some banana and some onion. And believe it or not, guys, I've said it lots. They handle the onion just fine. They don't. It doesn't. I've had no ill effects. Maybe a little bit of dry. Pretty wet in there. It won't be dry the next time we look. It will wick up a lot of moisture. One bucket. I got 3 of these buckets of frozen kitchen scraps. Oh, let's put some of these in before we forget. There. As always, try to cover your food best you can. It holds down the little fruit flies or gnats or whatever you want to call them. It keeps them under control. So this was a new paper in there last time, and it's sucked up a lot of moisture, and it's doing its thing, and pretty soon, this is such an active bin, there won't be much left of it. Hey, that's another regular done. Turn this around. Look at the fungus under here, hey? There is really good biology in these bins. It'll take a little bit. So, I don't really see any worms. I'm sure there's some in here, but there's not many. But there's a whack of cocoons in there. There's a cocoon getting dark brown. So the darker they get, the closer they are to hatching, or they may have even hatched already. There's a schwack of them in here. Holy man, yeah. Lots and lots and lots of cocoons. I mean, if you can just look into them and see cocoons, there's a lot more. So that's a healthy, active bin. I was saying in my last video, I've had some questions along the way. It's like, especially the other night when we were around that table and visiting, and like the guys there, I've made some worm teas and stuff, and some of them are just kind of getting started in that, and it's like, how much do you need? And it's like, well, you don't need much. You really don't need much to make some seed treatment or some worm tea to spread out in your garden, or go try a plot or something out in the field. Okay, so we're going to fold the top back this way because that's where all that fungus is. And we're going to mix it up and move our bottom over, aerate it up so that it tries to dry a little bit. And there's a real good population of worms in here. We'll set this stuff over here on top for now. Just till we get the bottom mixed up. Nice fat worms in here, guys. Like, not worm balls, but just literally moving with worms. Like, real good population. Real good. There's a worm ball. Like, if I was going to split this bin, this would be a candidate to make a new bin. But I'm not gonna. I'm going to use their activity to just get more castings and stuff of what I want and need for now. And maybe this summer, rather than ignoring them, I may split up some bins. Another thing, I know I might be being kind of a meanie or whatever, but I had to buy my worms, and they weren't cheap. And I've had some people come along and they want me to give them some worms to just throw out in their compost bin. Well, for one, I don't believe they'll survive worth crap out there because we get such cold winters. And if they do, that's great. But I'm not going to risk a population of worms, even a handful, to go out into a bin that's going outdoors and going to get thrown away. I won't do it. And they want it for free. Well, like I say, I had to buy my worms, and they were expensive. I mean, it started out with very little amounts of worms. And grew them up to what I've got now, and I've got a real good population in here. What kind of a business plan is it, model is it, to give away your products? I mean, I've given some away to my nieces, and I'm okay with that. That's kind of family. But when strangers come along and think that I should just give stuff away to them, that kind of bugs me, because they don't give much to me. I mean, they they always seem to expect me to give them a deal, and I don't think I need to. I'm not asking stupid price, I'm asking market price, and I said I wanted, you know, $65 or whatever, and for so much weight, basically what I paid for them. They looked at me like I had two heads. It's a poor business model to give your stuff away and then, yeah, anyway. I don't know where I was going with that, but one of the frustrating things that bugs me about people, I guess. Okay, the big bin. We're going to move everything over because we need a little more room. Oh, yeah, there's still some girth to this girl. I'm going to set that down, move that over, get a place for my lid. Alright, these are also red wigglers, as far as I'm concerned. There may have been some blue worms, but I don't see them anymore. I think they've, back in the days where when I was setting up my bin, I think they kind of exited by themselves, and I just don't recognize a bunch of blue worms in here anymore. To this end, we'll be able to harvest some of that as soon as we've got the screens out and we're at it. Wow. Look at all the worms on top. When you've got, I'm going to back you up just a little bit there. When you've got worms like this on top of your bin, they're having a party, guys. They're having a party. Yep, they are. So look at the paper from last time. It's tethering up. Let's start by getting some of the stuff that we can out. Wow, this is nice stuff. So as wet as it probably is down here, at this end I've got it dried down enough that I can do some sifting. I'm just going to lay this on top of the paper for now, because then it makes it real easy to flip it back into place. This is nice stuff. And lots of it. Like, we're going to get a good amount out of this bin. And this is my busiest bin. This is my oldest bin. This is my biggest bin. It has the most mass. It has a lot of things going for it. It has a really strong population. All of my red wiggler bins that I've got, like all them ones there, have been hand-picked red wigglers out into starter kits to start with. There's been no grabbing and just make a new kit. I could do that, but I was always just aiming to have red wiggler bins over there. If there are any blues in here, I'm sorting them off, and they're not going with the starter kit. Alright, here's some of that nylon string, probably out of come through the shredder off of something that we shredded. And what's the big deal? It's gonna, the worms go around it, the screen takes it out. When we find it, we set it off to the side, and we keep going. You'll notice, I don't know if you can see, but there's lots of spent pumpkin seeds. There is nothing left of them. They are just hollow. All of the nutrition is out of them. It's just a shell. What else should we talk about today while we're doing some work? It's unbelievable how far this stuff will go when you start making teas out of it, right? Because it just doesn't take that much to make a tea out of. Like, I'm actually confident that in this bin here we've got more than enough to make another 1,000-liter tote of worm tea. And as I explained in my last video, a 1,000-liter tote covers approximately 40 acres if I mix it down. Once I brew the tea, and then I dilute that 5-to-1 and spread it out into my fields at 20 gallons per acre at that rate, my 1,000-liter tote will probably, well, it should cover approximately 40 acres. Now you get the biology cooking on 40 acres and you see some of the differences that are happening. Like last year, Nathan figured we hit about 3 bushels an acre difference on the stuff where we just applied worm tea as a seed treatment. That's pretty substantial. We're getting it real good. We're starting to get to the wet spots now. Or we're just, this will probably be it. So, doesn't cost much to do worm tea compared to fertilizers. And once you get the biology out onto your soil, we don't know how the continuing effects of this is going to work. We know there's going to be continuing effects. Look at that. That's awesome. Let's pull up our paper and see how that looks. Wow, this paper is it's well used. Let's just roll this back. There's nothing to it anymore. The fungus. If you watched our last video, we did a real good feeding in here last time. And we're gonna move everything, aerate everything. Good population of worms. They will transfer this way. Look at this. So we'll just set this stuff over here for now, because there's nothing left of it. It's coming out in chunks. But lots of good activity in this bin. Good chance we're going to see a worm ball on this. What is this? Glue of some sort. Probably off of a paper bag. The glue seam. Like I say, don't panic about stuff. The worms, if they don't like it, they're not going to eat it. They're not going to touch it. They're not going to go through it. They'll leave it for you to find. But, okay. Look at the worms in here, guys. It's just teeming. No worm balls per se, but just completely teeming with worms. And healthy fat. Active worms. So we're gonna, there's this chunk of paper. Paper. Okay. I'm gonna throw some of this down. And this is the last bin, so I'm gonna use it all up. Put some dry on top. These guys get fed real well because there's lots of worms in here. Asparagus, onions, banana, apple core. We have one more. I'm not sure if it's full or not. I don't think it is, but there'll be something in it. We got bananas, and bananas. Alrighty, so we give these guys a real good feeding, and there is a lot of moisture that we're adding in here because everything's frozen. I freeze all of my food. As anybody that's been following me knows, it's all been kept in the freezer. As we get rid of stuff, we put it in the freezer as we eat stuff. What do we want to do? Well, I'm going to do some dry first, because I know there's going to be a lot of moisture in here. Lots and lots of moisture in here. With what I just added and what's already in the bin. And then we're going to move this stuff over, spread it around. Happy, happy, happy worms. And then we're going to dump this out. Then we'll start a new batch of that stuff up for next time. And that's just coffee and shredded paper. And then we're going to add some more dry. And with a whole just to start absorbing. We add this stuff back in. But they're having a party with this paper. Plastic, or plastic back down. And so with so much moisture, I am going to not try to cover this end so tight at all. I'll maybe start there. Do that. And do that. And that. Throw him back in here and get him to the ground so he doesn't get up there in the... Okay, and I always crack my end. Don't think I leave it closed. I don't. I always crack my end once I set it down, but it's heavy, so... Oh! You guys got some girth. Alrighty. So let's have a look. At what the whole perspective of the things is. That side there would do a tote. So that's a 1,000-liter tote. This side, more than enough to do seed treatment for a couple of batches of seed treatment, which I do that in 20-liter pails, and then I dilute it into a 45-gallon drum. And then when we treat the seed, we just set it up for augering, and the mix of seed treatment goes directly onto the green and gets mixed up the screw of the auger. Set it in a truck for 30 minutes, half hour. Go put it in your drill and go seeding. So there's enough there for one tote and one batch plus maybe of seed treatment. That's how little it takes to make this happen. Like get the biology out onto the land. So I'm going to show you something else, part of my worm farm. And that is my storage container that I keep my castings in. And I had some castings that I kept from last year. So it's not all from this year. So this thing is a 35-gallon tote. And this is it's a third full. So there's 12 gallons probably in here. And I mix it all up. Moisture's good. See? So before we do that, let's get the new stuff. Pour it in. So, with me adding all of them, excuse me, with me adding new castings now, pretty much from now till spring, mixing it up, it keeps everything active in here. Like this, the old stuff is not deactivated. It maybe had lost some of its biology, but not by means, not all of it. I mean, good God, people go to the store and buy bags of worm castings that have been on the shelf for a year, and they seem to be completely happy with what they get. This is a lot more maintained than that, and with adding the new stuff in as we go, it is constantly being added to for activity, right? So I won't say it's half full. It's a little less than half full. 35 gallons, so it's probably about 12, 13 gallons of worm castings in there, and we're still adding. So there's a lot, because I might use 2 gallons, a gallon and a half to 2 gallons in a 1,000-liter tote. There's a lot of totes in there. And everything we do is not measured in totes. We measure it in, some of it is measured in 5-gallon buckets and 45-gallon drums to do the application for the seed treatment. So that's a lot of seed treatment. I mean, I could treat seed for thousands of acres with this stuff. And don't worry, whatever's on the bed is just dry dust paper. It's the drop cloth catches it all. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I'm the guy with worms under my bed that does worms on top of my bed. Yeah, a little bit of a brush and it's all gone. And any of the dirt and stuff stays in the drop cloth. 99.9% of it. Alright, so like, subscribe, share, comment. I enjoy the comments. Let's have some fun with it. Talk to you later. Have a great one.